Good morning. Good morning. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a funny chest infection this morning. However, I wanted to draw your attention to an article that was in Vanity Fair, or has been written, rather, for March in Vanity Fair, in connection with the organisation News Nation, but particularly the comments made by the incredibly dedicated professional Brian Enton in regards to the Idaho murders and the implications of what he's experienced. We see Brian Enton in many cases in our true crime community, if you like, and many of us are horrified, appalled, and trying desperately to stop tragedy pimps, as we call them, people who do not do their research. They're not trained journalists, but go to these areas where families have lost, as in this case, 4 young people in the most hideous, heinous murder possible. And he has actually mentioned one in particular, Bullhorn Betty, who we all know, who are in the true crime community, and Websleuths generally, and their effect. What I've done, perhaps not as well as I'd have liked, but as best as I can, is to just highlight in blue bits and pieces of what was said in relation to these effects, and also to make people aware, in a more positive light, if you like, the fact that a magazine such as Vanity Fair is one such that is now beginning to highlight and reach a larger audience to the dangers of these armchair detectives, web sleuths, and the harm that they can cause in cases, and to not acknowledge, whilst they go to these places purportedly to help, which they do not, as we have seen, in my opinion, to go to these places and comment and cause havoc, particularly the person, as we know, as Bullhorn Betty and others, by shrieking and their behaviour, and causing a problem actually for the law enforcement often to deal with a case. This case of the Idaho 4 was extremely distressing, and whilst it's distressing for us, the viewer, to watch, learn about and read about, if we actually do try and read about it properly, like we should, do our research as best we can, it's important that it's highlighted by these more major magazines, whether you read them or not, because it means the word is spreading about the hurt, the harm, and the pain caused for victims and their families. And I think Brian Enton, like Nate Eaton, who dealt with the Vallow Daybell case, have proven just how professional and compassionate they can be in these delicate situations. So that's my 2 penneth, as we say here, from where I'm from in England, on this article. Obviously I've highlighted it, but what I'll do is I'll put the link to the article as per usual in my description, because I did it in a little bit, not in haste, but just quickly as I could, to put it out so people were aware that we must keep highlighting it, and we must keep contacting, whether it's through Twitter or whatever means, these larger magazines, etc., so that more people are aware and more people can help support stopping these so-called armchair web sleuths. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. You'll have to forgive me. I've got a high fever. But I've been thinking about it for a couple of days since I saw it. I know the Cash Gurnan Justice Family Organisation have mentioned it. Much respect to them as ever, always. And maybe read the article and have some hope that messages are getting across. And however small we are, whether we are actually making videos on channels or we're just watching, or we're major channels, it's important that we are aware of what is happening in a more wider spectrum now. That is what is needed. It is the only way, I think, to stop these people from causing the distress for their clicks and views and super chats, etc. These opinions are my own, which I'm allowed under freedom of speech, free speech, etc., fair use, and you can make your own conclusions from reading this article. And I'll put the link to Brian Linton's Twitter page on here as well. He's always worth following. He often does lives to camera for people to ask him questions. So I hope that's of interest to you all. Take care on this really blustery, freezing cold Monday morning. Much love to you all. Look after each other. Stay safe. Be vigilant. Carry pink.